Today, my fellow entrepreneur, we're going to teach you a job that can offer you both a leisure of time and money-making life. How? That's by becoming a successful podcaster in the comfort of your house. But first, let's start with what is podcast. You've probably heard of it, literally, because podcasts are digital audio files that are meant to be heard by everyone. And wherever you go, you are going to hear some podcasts, and prominent podcasts you may know are ones like Case Files, Business Wars, and The School of Greatness. And right now, there are 850,000 podcasts worldwide. So now is a perfect time to jump in and start creating and editing audio files. But is starting and editing a podcast worth it? Well, podcasters typically earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and an average starter would make around $70,000 a year. The podcast industry is also rapidly increasing, with over 40% of the world's population listening to at least one podcast, and is expected to garner over $1 billion in 2021. And considering it only started in 2004, it is surprisingly growing at a rapid rate in our generation. Also, podcasts are split in series, with each episode earning up to $500 alone from advertisements and marketing. So if you were to make at least 7 episodes per week, then you'll be earning more or less than $3,500 in a full week. Fun fact, the Joe Rogan Experience makes about $800,000 per episode. At 3 episodes per week, his show makes $9.6 million per month. He makes another $16,500 to $264,000 per month on YouTube. Now, if you're thinking of recording your stories, news, interviews, or whatever you're planning to record, and we are here today to teach you the core parts on how to set up and edit your podcast to create an amazing podcast for your audiences to listen to. Now, before we start there are some things you need to take a note of in starting off your journey, and this is the things you need to know before starting a podcast. First off, remove any possible background noise before starting your podcast. There's nothing peskier than an unnecessary noise that disrupts both your podcast content and your editing time. Whether it be some ghost whisperings at your mic or pet making noises, noise reduction would be a great way to prevent these annoying distractions. Second tip, learn about audio editing and sound designing. These techie stuff are not for the faint of heart, but it fits for the strongest of minds. And as long as you have a basic knowledge in editing auditory media or willing to learn how, you won't have any problems in setting up a podcast all by yourself. Third tip, always research the best techniques in improving your podcast. Audio editing is extremely important in podcast. It contains all the spirit and content you're making. And there are a lot of different techniques to start beautifying it effectively. And always remember to keep innovating and keep your edits up to date. Always double check your audio. The last thing you want to do is release a rampant and unfurnished podcast out to your growing audiences. But failure makes up for success, and as long as you keep good quality audio up and running fine, you're good to go with your podcast. Fifth tip, don't stray far away from what you're used to. Your podcast should be consistent throughout your entire run, and you must set limits to your ambitious plans and massive changes to your podcast, both in content or in auditory means, such as changing genres or themes in the mid-run and changing your auditory preferences. And reminder, you can start a decent podcast for as long as $100 to $200. Now you've got an idea on how to start off your podcast without a hitch, and we can move on to our next segment, which is how to properly set up and start editing your podcast in 7 simple steps. Number 7, choose your digital audio workstation and video editing software. First and foremost, you need something to edit your audio with, and that's where DAWs come in. DAWs are a number of audio editing software that are commonly used by audio-oriented media such as podcast. So choosing one that has an easy-to-learn interface and basic analog workstation while still providing impeccable tools would be worth to try. Now, podcasts aren't necessarily a visual media, but if you're deciding on adding in a splice of video in your podcasts, you should choose a video editor that is easy to use and light on your computer. Number 6. Buy essential equipment for both podcasting and editing. Your podcasting road would be rough if you don't bother investing in some equipment to ease your situation. And there are various tools and equipment you may want to invest in. So what are these equipment? First one is microphones. A microphone with a frequency response range of around 80 Hz to 15 kHz would make a good choice for a vocal. Not only will it make your voice consistent and audible, but it will also provide you with less editing to do. Second one is a good computer. A good computer should be the one that can run all your editing, processing, and software without any lag or a deception in performance, since audio editing can be as power hungry as video editing. So make sure to have at least 4 GB of RAM and a processor that is equivalent to an Intel Core i3 processor. Third one is headphones. If you don't want your job to be tedious enough, then you have to get headphones that will help you hear your voice better and set adjustments on the way. Number 5, choose the content niche you're gonna make. Podcasts are known for its richness and diversity in themes and genres, so you yourself must choose your own. But remember that once you've chosen a genre or a theme, you've got to stick with it, like a niche. There are various genres you can choose, such as horror, thriller, comedy, or even romance, while themes are based on what you want to do or what you want it to be about. And that's why you've got to choose one that will fit right in with you. And once you've done so, you'll have to put every part of you in improving and honing your expertise on the subject of genre or theme. And remember to always stick to that, because many of your audiences may try to persuade you on choosing another topic, but that would break your consistency and create a rift in your podcast channel. Number 4, create entertaining content. As you know, entertaining a large mass is not an easy task. In the start of your career, you'll experience ups and downs on your podcast's entertainment meter. However, just like Joe Rogan, you'll start improving and eventually start making content that everybody can't hate. And to do this, you need to be passionate about your work. You need to start putting more dedication and keeping everything simple and straight to the point. And you must also keep at it in your podcast career. Hopefully, this will help you when you're hungry for inspiration in the future. Also, you've got to keep listening to a lot of other podcasts. Think back to stories your family has told you. Pique everyone's curiosity. Pay attention to your audience. Pay attention to criticism. Create space for inspiration to find you. Leverage your skills. Number 3, start becoming known through traffic and SEOs. Your podcast won't have legs to walk on its own, and that is why you have to start taking action in increasing your audiences. There are various ways you can go on with this. First, create a compelling title or an alluring title for your podcast. Captivating your audience with state-of-the-art titles that pique the interest of your audience would be good. Next is finding keywords and inputting it into your podcast. Including keywords in your description would make you pop up on simple keywords, which you can find in Google Keywords. Third is to be active on your social medias. Becoming a prominent entertainer wouldn't be complete without an equally entertaining social media account. Lastly, create blog sites of your podcast. You can do this simply by hiring freelancers to do so, or using tools to create your own website blog. Number 2, start looking for ways to earn profits. There's nothing more important than growing your podcast channel and seeing good profits come in. And to start earning $500 to $1,500 of profit per podcast episode, you need to start taking action. Now you'll have to consider taking these steps. First, find sponsorships. Sponsorships are the most common way podcasters make money. This is when the podcast promotes the sponsor during the show. You probably heard your favorite shows plug in their advertisers a few times in every episode. Second, get engaged in affiliated sales. Affiliated sales are similar to sponsorships, but instead of getting paid by the download, you get paid based on what you sell for another company. The other company pays you a commission for each sale. Third, start advertising complementary products. The third common way to monetize a product is to sell complementary products. This might include merchandise, courses, consulting services, books, or access to live events. Fourth, start a Patreon. Patreon is when you simply ask your fans to send money to support your show. If your content and personality are good, there are plenty of people who will happily throw you a few dollars so you can keep producing episodes. Number 1, consider inviting guests and accepting invites as a guest. Once you start growing and you can afford to invite someone over to your podcast, you'll have to take the chance. Guests can offer interesting developments for your podcast. Not only can they be something new for your audience, they could also bring in new audiences for you. Guests can also offer a new level of entertainment for your podcast, both figuratively and literally. Also, once you start becoming known, you'll be often asked to collaborate with other podcasters. You have room to consider, and you'll have to weigh in the benefits you get, but once you do, it can bring you in a lot more success and future profits for yourself. Now you know the most basic steps in starting and editing your very own podcast. It's time for you to learn the benefits that podcasting can bring. So here are advantages in starting your own podcast. First off, podcast is extremely popular. Since podcast has millions of users, it can bring you success in no time as long as you stick to what you do best. Second, cheap and easy to start. It won't need any more than $500 to start, and since it's easy to start, you can easily experiment with it, and it only needs a computer, headset, and a microphone to start. Third, extremely profitable. Just like YouTube, you get money for every 1,000 listeners you have for varying prices from $20 to $50. So if you'll get 100,000 listeners, you'll have $200 for every hour of an ad you give. Fourth, it'll never grow old. As it started, podcasting still has a growing audience of millions and it hasn't experienced any drops, so you can have a lot of hope that podcasting will last for a long time. So if you have what it takes, you can start as soon as you can today. Now that's how you become a successful podcast editor. It isn't an easy job, but who says there's an easy way in becoming successful? So we hope that you've learned well from the advices that we shared, and please like and subscribe to our channel so that we are able to post more business tips to help you out. Also, don't forget to turn on notification bell for more videos just like this. And again, this is Mr. Make a Million out, and I hope you're prepared to make million. Mr. Make a Million out. Make